Thank you for having me this morning. So, show of hands, you didn't know this was going to be interactive. How many people have a key in their pocket? Everybody. All right. So the question I've got, let me go back up just a second. I'm with Assa Abloy, specifically with Medeco security locks. How many of you heard of Medeco security locks? Good. Okay. So Medeco's been the pioneer in the U.S. around building and inventing high security mechanical locks. So what I'm about to put on the screen is going to be very controversial for a guy like me, and that's why we don't like keys. Does anybody here want to have more keys in their facility? One guy, more keys.
More keys.
He's the troublemaker in the crowd. Why don't we like keys? Right? I've read it in so many industry publications that we want to get rid of keys in our facility. Now, for a company like Medeco, that might be worrisome, but like we've always done, we've pioneered new technology that solves that. But before it makes sense to you, we got to back up and understand why we don't like keys. A couple of thoughts on that. One, our organizations change, right? We let people go, we move people around the organization, and if I've got a traditional master key system, what do? Usually nothing, right? I lose a little bit of control of my system because I don't change, or I give somebody an extra key or something like it. So I lose control as my organization changes, and that's happening more and more. What else? People lend keys. How often do people hand a key to, I mean, it's a perfectly innocent story. I hand the key to my wife so she can come in the evenings to remind me it's dinner time at the office, and I report it missing, and I get another key. So now there's a key in my system I don't know about. Anybody had that happen? You're not going to show hands on this one, are you? But this is real. So people lend keys, really hard to control. We let people go. We don't get keys back, right? You fire somebody, you don't get the keys back, now what? And so the problem here is we're supposed to rekey, but we know what happens in the industry. You lose a key, or somebody you don't get one back. We don't always rekey the first time. We don't always rekey the second time. It might even go 3 or 4 keys before finally the pain is so great, we say, I can't stand anymore, I have to rekey. But I'm avoiding it because it's expensive and it's disruptive. Fair point?
Yeah.
Fair. Okay, good. You gotta be, come on, you're gonna be here all day, right? And the last one is lost keys. Right? Somebody loses a key, and if it's a master key, even worse. Now you about have to rekey if you lose a master key. At Medeco, we hear all kinds of horror stories about this. We've got end users that have lost. I've got one that lost a master key and rekeyed. 6 months later, lost another one, rekeyed. 6 months later, lost another one and rekeyed. I mean, we hope that doesn't happen to our customers, but we know it does. So why we don't like keys? Because they're essentially inflexible. You can't change what those keys do. Once they're issued, they always do what they do. And that's a problem. No matter what, if you've got a mechanical key system, it's going to cost time trying to keep up with it. It's expensive when things change or something gets lost. And you've got liability for a couple reasons. Liability because they're hard to manage. We don't change them as fast as we could. And liability because we really don't know what's going on with that mechanical system. Right? Many of you have got electronic access control systems in your facilities because you want to know what's going on. Well, why wouldn't you want the SAM on all doors? It's interesting what you can learn. Now, again, this is a little bit controversial for a guy from Medeco to be saying all these bad things about mechanical keys. Listen, we love mechanical keys for what they did and what they do, but we're also astute enough to understand that they don't do all the things that you need done. If you want mechanical, we'll still sell you the best mechanical system you can buy. Medeco's got that right. We just think there's a better way, and that's what I'm here to tell you about for just a few minutes this morning. So, are we missing something? All right, this is where it gets fun. To understand what we're missing, we've got to take the way back machine. We're going to take a little history lesson. All right, we're going to go back and we're going to look at the financial industry of the 1800s, and bear with me, this will make sense in about 3 or 4 minutes. So let's go back, the way back machine. So back in the early 1800s, my wealth, we're talking banking for just a minute, my wealth was a bag of gold in my pocket. It was as good as it got. So I was fully in control, right? If I wanted to go to the local saloon and get a drink, I had my gold. I suppose that's how I paid for it. But when I buy a horse, I had my gold. I was in control. The problem is, if somebody wanted my gold worse than I did, they knock me over the head and take it, right? I lose everything. What if I lose my bag of gold? I'm galloping through the desert, my horse, my gold falls out. I lose it. That's a problem. So I was in control. It was a tenuous control at best. So then along came banks. I put my gold in a bank. Now it's safer, you can't knock me over the head and take all that I have, but now I want to buy that horse, I got to run by a bank and get a little bit of gold and go buy my horse, right? So it's improved in some senses, maybe not all. So fast forward now to today, we've got ATMs. Our money is safe in the bank, we're in control, and if we want to buy a horse, we just stop by an ATM on the local corner, so I don't have to go very far out of my way. I get my money and I do what I want to do. So now I've got the benefit of control, security, and convenience in banking. So now, that was our Wayback Machine. Let's now consider how this compares. So I'm going to go back again to the 1800s. Say you're the mayor of one of these towns and you're controlling security. You had a ring of keys probably looking like this. You could get into any building you wanted. It was all good. You had full control. But just like the bag of gold, if somebody wanted my access more than I had, they'd knock me over the head, take my ring of keys. Now they've got everything I had. Or it could fall out of my pocket in the middle of the desert as I'm riding my horse and I lose everything. Right? So not exactly a good proposition of control back in the 1800s. So now let's fast forward. Things have gotten a whole lot better, right? Right? Not really. So here we are in 2016. Most of us still carrying a ring of keys. Probably looks like this. In fact, it's been humorously suggested, the more keys you have on the ring, the more power you have. So we're carrying this ring of keys, but we're not in control anymore. Right? It's just like the bag of gold. We can lose these keys, we can lend these keys. It's this false sense of security with mechanical. Right? I mean, we're perfectly in control until somebody loses these things. We're not using anything much better than we were in the 1800s to secure our facilities. And that's where Medeco then can come in and offer a little better security. So what is that? What's it look like? So here's the perfect key from our perspective. Perfect key shouldn't work. That's an odd way to start. It really shouldn't work until I need it to work. It's the problem with a mechanical key is it works all the time. I can't turn the darn thing off. I want a key that only works when I need a key to work. And I don't want it to work any longer than it should work, right? I need timing on this key. And by the way, I only want it to open certain openings when I turn this thing on, and I want it to have a memory. I want it to know precisely where it's been, and then I want it to turn itself back off. This is a different animal than that picture, that ring of keys that we talked about. In fact, it's hard, we probably shouldn't even call this thing a key, but we do, or we're a little nostalgic. Would a key like this get more interesting to anybody in the room? A few? All right, come on. This is going to be a long day for you folks, that's all I can tell you. So anyway, the perfect key really is an intelligent key, and that's what I want to give you a glimpse of, and my colleagues at the table will have some of this product to show you. So we've got a key, a couple different formats that works when I need it, for as long as I need it, for the openings I need it to. It remembers what it did, and it can shut itself back off again. And I can control all this through consider these things ATMs. I think this has a laser. Whoops, that's the blackout button. Okay. Those are like ATMs for access. I put my key in that and it gives me access for 5 minutes at a time. It pulls auto off the key so I can see exactly where that's been, and that's all administrated in some local place. You can be in your office controlling access. We've even got keys now that talk through Bluetooth directly to a mobile phone. You don't even need these devices for the ultimate convenience. So the cool thing about them, there are a couple of keys, is they'll go just about anywhere. So whether you're talking remote substations in a utility where I've got padlocks on a fence, guess what? These cylinders don't take any power. They get all the power from the keys. You can stick them out in the wilderness. It doesn't matter. And the key opens them. So it's whether it's, again, padlocks on a fence somewhere. We do a lot of fence lines around airports. There's another good one. How do you control that? Office buildings. Here's one for you. Electronic access control. Your override cylinder. How do you know who's overriding it? It's just this some miscellaneous door forced open alarm unless you've got audit. You put a cylinder like this on, now you close up that gap. You finish the job and get accountability on the override. So they'll fit just about anywhere. Retail cabinet locks. Retailers are taking this stuff on like crazy because they can not only control access, but they're even able to do efficiency studies because of all the audit data coming in off their retail cabinets. So think in your businesses, whatever they are, if you had data from every opening in your facility and you could tell when employees were coming and going from anything, what could you learn? And that's what an intelligent key does. So my job here was to be a little bit provocative. So I'm going to give you something to think about in terms of what intelligent keys do as opposed to mechanical keys, just as a couple parting thoughts. Let me ask, has anybody bought a typewriter in the last 5 years? Why not? It types a really good letter. It does. It types a great letter, but we don't buy them. Instead, we buy something like a laptop because it'll save, it'll do spell check. I need that terribly when I type letters. A laptop does the things I need done, even though a typewriter could do it well. Do you know when that typewriter was invented? It was about 1870. Keep that in mind for just a second. Fast forward. If anybody came to you in your business, if you said, I want a state-of-the-art communications system, and somebody came to you with a telegraph machine as an option, would you keep them on staff? It's laughable. Fair? Telegraph machine was invented in the same decade as the current technology in mechanical cylinders. The pin tumbler cylinder was invented in 1848, the same decade as the telegraph machine, yet we still keep using mechanical keys with pin tumbler cylinders, calling it state-of-the-art. We're trying to rely on 160-year-old technology for our security and wonder why we're frustrated with it. And that's why you want intelligent keys. So instead of a telegraph, we're using things like mobile phones because they do what we want. If anybody asked you 10 years ago if you would strap a $1,000 computer on your belt, you'd say you're nuts. Now we all have mobile phones worth $1,000 on every one of our belts, right? That's the technological change. That's us adapting to things that get the job done. So just like the telegraph machine doesn't really get it done, my suggestion for you is mechanical keys are really not getting it done for us anymore. You need to consider something more intelligent. So, again, you've got a choice. When it comes time to consider security in your facilities, take a look. If you'd like to tolerate the lack of change, the lack of flexibility, when you let people go, when they let keys, or when they lose keys or lend keys, stick with mechanical. I'll give you a glowing endorsement for Medeco. We do it better than anybody does. But if you're tired of that, just like you'd probably be tired if you had to call your colleagues on a telegraph machine today, then you need to take a close look at what intelligent keys do, because they are solving very real problems of today. So I appreciate your time. Good luck today. And when you get a minute, I think the breaks are at lunchtime this afternoon, talk to some of my